Welcome to our journey through history. Today we're going to delve into the life and impact of a significant figure, or perhaps a thing, that profoundly shaped American society. As you watch this video, try to figure out who or what we're talking about. Take note of the exact time in the video when you think you've figured it out. Then watch until the end and leave a comment with the timestamp when you made your guess. Ready? Let's begin. Imagine a time when society was divided not by choice but by force. A time when certain people were told they couldn't share the same spaces, the same schools, or even the same water fountains. This was a time when people's lives were shaped by an invisible force, a set of rules that dictated every aspect of daily existence. These rules were everywhere, enforced with a cold, unyielding hand. But who was behind these rules? Who created this system that entrenched inequality and perpetuated division? To understand that, we need to go back to the end of the Civil War. The Civil War had just ended, and the South was in turmoil. The formerly enslaved African Americans were now free, but the path to true equality was fraught with obstacles. During Reconstruction, there was hope. African Americans were elected to public office and new laws were passed to protect their rights. But this progress was met with fierce resistance. By the late 1870s, Reconstruction had ended, and the South was determined to maintain its social hierarchy. So, a new system was born, a system designed to keep African Americans in a state of perpetual inferiority. This system infiltrated every part of life: schools, transportation, restrooms, even cemeteries. It was upheld by local governments, enforced by law, and supported by violence. It was a system that seemed almost omnipotent. Enforcers of this system didn't just rely on the law, they used terror and intimidation to keep people in line. For decades, this system dictated who could live where, who could work where, and who could marry whom. But who was behind it all? Who masterminded this structure of segregation and inequality? Was it a single person, a shadowy figure lurking in the background? The truth is, it wasn't the work of one person. It was a collective effort by those who feared change and wanted to maintain power. However, it was given a name that became synonymous with oppression and injustice: Jim Crow. Not a man, but a set of state and local regulations that enforced racial segregation. Named after a minstrel show character, these laws, which were in effect for about a century from the post-Civil War era until 1968, aimed to oppress African Americans by restricting their rights to vote, work, receive education, and access other opportunities. Those who resisted Jim Crow laws often faced severe consequences, including arrest, fines, imprisonment, violence, and even death. The term Jim Crow originated from a minstrel routine called Jump Jim Crow, performed in 1828 by its creator Thomas Dartmouth, Daddy Rice, and other imitators. Rice would darken his skin with makeup, dress in tattered clothes, and perform a song and dance routine. Many white people believed this offensive portrayal was typical of black individuals, reinforcing harmful stereotypes. Jim Crow etiquette norms were extensive and pervasive, illustrating how entrenched these social rules were. A black man could not offer to shake hands with a white man, as it implied equality, nor could he offer any physical contact to a white woman due to the risk of accusations of rape. Black and white people were not to eat together, and if they did, white individuals were served first, often with a partition separating them. A black man was not to light a white woman's cigarette, as it suggested intimacy. Public displays of affection between black people were prohibited to avoid offending white people. Courtesy titles such as Mr., Mrs., Miss, Sir, or Ma'am were not used by white people when addressing black people, who were called by their first names. Black people, however, had to use courtesy titles when addressing white people and were not allowed to use their first names. In a car driven by a white person, a black person had to sit in the back seat or back of a truck. White motorists always had the right of way at intersections. Simple rules for black people when conversing with white people included: never implying that a white person was lying, never claiming or displaying superior knowledge or intelligence, never cursing a white person, never laughing derisively at a white person, never commenting on the appearance of a white woman. Jim Crow states enacted laws that strictly regulated social interactions between races. Signs indicating Jim Crow were placed above water fountains, entrances and exits, and public facilities. There were separate hospitals, prisons, schools, churches, cemeteries, restrooms, and public accommodations for black and white people. Typically, black facilities were inferior, often older and poorly maintained, and in some cases, non-existent. Jim Crow laws kept America divided for nearly a century. It took immense courage, sacrifice, and countless struggles to dismantle this system. Today, we remember Jim Crow not as a person but as a dark chapter in our history that we must never forget, lest we repeat it. Jim Crow laws, a reminder of where we've been and a guidepost for where we must never go again.